What's up everybody, Arthur here. Welcome to part 2 of my top 50 most anticipated Metroidvanias currently in production. Part 1 was released earlier this year, you can check it out in the description. I wanted to make part 2 sooner, but the eShop's closing changed all my plans. I'm happy to come back to this though, because I have 25 more promising games to show you. Once again, they are not in order of preference, but I will finish filling in my personal top 20, which is looking like this so far. Also, I'm only showcasing here games that have trailers with gameplay footage, so do not expect Metroid Prime 4 or Tesla Grad 2 for instance. Alright, that's enough said. Get your wishlist ready and here we go. Welcome to the channel, this is From the Void. Up front this time we have an absolute highlight of the entire top 50, The Last Faith. Now, I'll be the first to point out that the Souls formula has been overused recently, but this one is looking especially well done, so I have no problem with the use of the grim gothic tone, and to me, in many aspects, it looks more inclined to a Castlevania inspiration than to Souls games, including in the gameplay department. You even have the secondary weapons with familiar attack patterns, and this game is looking gorgeous. It's incredibly well detailed in the pixel art and animations, the boss fights look absolutely haunting, and the entire atmosphere is formidable. This takes the bronze. It's my third most anticipated upcoming Metroidvania. I believe that The Last Faith is close to release. They updated the Steam site recently, so it's safe to assume it's coming by the end of this year, 2022. And it's confirmed for PCs, Switch, PlayStations 4 and 5, and Xbox One and Series. Among Metroidvanias, the less represented is the Metroid style for some reason. There is an overabundance of medieval style options with a heavier focus on melee combat, but much less on the alien shooter style. Last time I talked about Transmute and Biota, and to a lesser extent Ambrosia also goes for the shooter style, but for sure the absolute best looking upcoming Metroidvania of this kind has gotta be Moadra. It's looking like it's gonna be a very dark game, conveying even more of a dreadful tone than Metroid, probably because of the color palette here, that uses a lot of poisonous and putrid shades of purples, yellows and greens. The locations are pretty chilling, the characters are inspired in the Predator creatures probably, which remain very scary, and the sounds are all quite eerie. I'm digging the whole tone of this game very much, and the gameplay seems awesome, especially the late game stuff. In some glimpses we can see the playable character with some advanced looking gear. This is looking great, and it climbed all the way up to number 9 in my most anticipated Metroidvania games in development. Moadra is confirmed for 2023, only for PC so far, which is a bummer, as I see a lot of potential for console players to get into it, especially now with the resurgence of Metroid on the Switch, so I'm hoping the developer is looking into releasing this game on consoles as well. Next is Plague Huntress. This is 100% a Castlevania-like, from the tone, music and gameplay, and it's doing all of it rather splendidly, with mighty fine animations, a pretty cool protagonist. I rather enjoy how acquiring a new gear item changes the sprite, and they even make a special animation to show it off. The mobility is also looking great, so it's all positive for Plague Huntress. It has no confirmed release date or platforms yet, but the dev is saying to have planned to release in all major consoles. Okay, this is something else completely. Get ready for Spirit of the Samurai. right now you must be questioning if this is even a Metroidvania, right? With the camera so close to the samurai guy and how he moves slowly, it looks like a 2D fighting game or something. Yeah, this is not the game. See, the samurai dies. There, dead. But he's got some important mission and his spirit lives on. It enters this little blue spirit guy called a Kodama, so that's who you control. And you will be following his little kitten around, with your enemies being spiders and scorpions, and the locations being holes in the ground and other crawl spaces, cause you're tiny. So that's where you'll be doing the Metroidvania exploration stuff. However, this game is ambitious. They're hinting at segments where you control the cat and maybe even regain control over the samurai somehow. Color me interested in this for sure. It's looking absolutely unique. Many questions remain though, so I'm not sure to place it in the top 20, but it could very well end up being one of the best Metroidvanias on the list, so keep a close eye on this. The dev is aiming at a 2022 release for PCs and maybe consoles later. This next one is pretty unbelievable, check it out, Turbo Kid. This is mixing Metroidvania with bike riding, somehow. But it looks great, both the sections with and without the two wheels. It has a nice 80s or 90s feel to the music and aesthetics. You can activate spikes on the bike so it clings to the ceiling, which is super cool. The action looks fast and fluid, and so does the biking segments where you can even do tricks. It's looking quite awesome, Turbo Kid. Add it to the list for sure. It is certainly in mine, grabbing the 13th position. It's so far confirmed only on Steam, with a 2022 release schedule. Next we have Vernal Edge. This has a beautiful and vibrant pixel art style with a clear SNES inspiration, including in the colors, which is right up my alley, and a really cool combat system from the looks of it, with fast-paced action and lots of combos to explore. There's also a lot of platforming involved too. This is shaping up real nice from the looks of it, and the developer is also a musician, so we can hope for a great soundtrack too. Looking forward to Vernal Edge for sure. It's scheduled for late 2022 and coming to PCs first through Steam and other platforms, with console releases later, including Switch, PlayStations 4 and 5, Xbox One and Series, but the console releases are not 100% confirmed as of yet. Moving on to Rusted Moss. This is a pretty interesting one. It's a shooter style Metroidvania, and the protagonist also has a grappling hook to attach to ceilings and swing around the levels, adding some pretty great mobility to this game. It also looks great. I like the orange, blue and gray color palette and how the protagonist looks. But the absolute highlight here is the shooting mechanism, which is looking awesome, with lots of different weapons that can be changed on the fly, and it has procedural aiming, but this is a style of gameplay that can only be done with mouse and keyboard, so I'm almost positive that this has to be exclusive to PCs, I'm afraid. But regardless, I have high hopes for Rusted Moss. I have been following this one for quite some time. They're aiming for an early 2023 release, like I said, on PCs only. This next one is pretty different, Airhead. Okay, so first of all, this is more like a puzzle Metroidvania than action, which is nice, cause there are way fewer of those, and the gimmick here is pretty crazy. You control a headless body that finds a bodiless head, so you know, instant match, cause they are both desperate. But the head needs air at all times, thus the name Airhead, there you go. so you need to reach the air cylinders to keep it alive. But to compensate for being such a liability, the head also has all sorts of abilities. It can light up dark places, activate machines, float, and much more. You'll also need to interact with the other inhabitants of this weird place and help them in their tasks so they can help you in return. This is looking really interesting. I know that at first glance it may not look like much. There's a lot going on here. This could turn out great. Airhead is confirmed for PCs, PlayStation 4, Switch, and Xbox One so far, and it's coming sometime before the end of 2022. Next is Faeland. Okay, this is probably looking very simplistic at first glance, maybe underwhelming even with how the main character looks perhaps, but keep watching. This is another one that goes for a more methodical combat style, similar to Savior from part 1, with simpler looking moves and everything a bit slower than usual, both on your side as well as on the enemies, but seemingly requiring more observation, fast decision making, and precision on your inputs, especially when it comes to using the shield, which seems to be receiving a lot of emphasis, and I welcome it gladly. The locations and creatures are all interesting with a medieval setting, and even a griffin creature to fly on top of. Pretty cool. This could turn out great if you ask me. Certainly one to watch. It's confirmed to be coming on Steam, Xbox One, PlayStation 4 and Switch, but no release date revealed yet. Following up with Rune Fencer Illyia. This is shaping up really great. It may not look like it at first glance because of the tiny main character sprite, but it's actually looking like an incredibly well-crafted game in terms of gameplay. Check it out. There are so many mechanisms being implemented here, both for combat as well as for exploration. Illyia can fling herself upwards by hitting enemies, walk on water, slide down stairs, run on walls and ceilings like Sonic. It's pretty impressive actually. This is clearly turning into a great game from the looks of it, so it totally deserves a spot on the list. Rune Fencer Illyia is my 18th most anticipated Metroidvania. It's coming out sometime in 2022, confirmed for Switch and PC so far. Next is retro throwback Lords of Exile. I know that in the aesthetics this is very similar to the two Bloodstained Curse of the Moon games, but all of these are actually heavily inspired in Castlevania 3 from the NES, so I see no issue here. The chiptune music is sounding great in this one, which is definitely a huge plus, and the enemies and boss designs are looking awesome, so I'm definitely looking forward to Lords of Exile. It's coming in 2022, currently confirmed for PCs and Switch. Moving on to Frontier Hunter Ezra's Wheel of Fortune. This is looking absolutely solid. We have plenty of combat moves, the game allows us to change between 3 playable characters on the go, and it seems you can even have 2 of them on screen at the same time somehow. I also like the graphics, characters and enemy designs, and although it doesn't seem to have anything too unique, it's certainly doing everything right, getting the 15th place on the list. Frontier Hunter is scheduled for sometime this year, only confirmed on PC so far. Next is Elypse. I really like the look of this game. The ominous eclipse on the back and the shades of red make for a very unique aesthetic. It seems to be more of a platformer than action, with a lot of precision input requirements, but could turn out great. It doesn't have a release date yet, and so far it's confirmed only for PCs through Steam and itch.io. Moving on to Glimmer in Mirror. This one goes for a different aesthetic that reminds me of Child of Light. It's a beautiful art style that I wouldn't expect on a Metroidvania, but it's working for me. Combat wise, this is a shooter type, which I appreciate. There seems to be a big emphasis on puzzle solving in the world too, and the boss fights once again are looking fantastic. This is another developer that seems to know what they're doing very well. Glimmer in Mirror is in early access already, with only the 4 first chapters, and there's a demo for it too. It's scheduled to come out by the end of 2022 and only confirmed for PC so far. Next is Mira, the Legend of Djinns. I love the pixel art in this one. The main guy here has some really cool moves, the platforming seems great, and the bosses are looking like a big highlight. So this developer seems to have gotten the priorities straight with this one. I also love the Moroccan architecture and culture inspiration for the game. Always down for less represented cultures in video games. So this is looking great and earning the 19th spot on the most anticipated list. Mira, the Legend of Djinns. Put it in your radar. Next is Gigasword. In this one, you wield a big ass sword that does more than cut enemies. You'll have to use it to solve environmental puzzles, and that means having to lose access to it for chunks of the level to regain it later. If this is well implemented, it could turn out into a fun and engaging feature of Gigasword. This is so far only confirmed for Steam and scheduled for sometime during 2023. Following up with Solomon's Demons. This has a pretty great looking art style. It somewhat reminds me of the Darkest Dungeon, but not quite, so it remains unique enough and it looks rather striking. I do feel like the animations are a little stiff, but the graphic style looks so great that I'm giving it a chance. Plus it has some cool ideas. It seems your main character can switch play styles drastically by gaining access to different masks, which also changes their appearance. Pretty cool. Solomon's Demons is scheduled for December 2023, quite a ways away, so they have plenty of time to polish it up, which makes me hopeful for it. The dev says it's coming for PCs and consoles, but doesn't detail which ones. One that I feel that should be getting much more attention is Curse of the Sea Rats. This is a really top-notch upcoming Metroidvania from the graphics to the gameplay. The graphics certainly deserve a highlight as they are all hand-animated and freaking amazing, with a stunning cartoonish aesthetic that fits the rat theme very well. It also features animated cutscenes that are looking great. Gameplay-wise, it seems to be doing everything right as well, with several characters to choose from, all with completely different traits and control schemes, varied scenarios to explore, and interesting monsters to beat. This is looking fantastic, quite frankly, so I can't understand why it isn't getting much more of a spotlight along with the likes of Crownthorn and Silksong. Curse of the Sea Rats certainly deserves a spot on the list. It is certainly in mine, currently holding the 14th most anticipated Metroidvania position. It's confirmed to be coming sometime this year, 2022, on Switch, PlayStation 4, Xbox One and PCs. This next one takes heavy inspiration in Hollow Knight, almost to a fault. We're talking about Chiaroscuro. The graphics here are certainly interesting. Most characters and creatures are black and white, which contrasts nicely with the backgrounds that carry some color. Where it copies Hollow Knight a bit too much is in the feeling of the main character's movements and attacks. It seemed copy-pasted from Hollow Knight's Knight, even in the sound effects. Listen. But everything else seems to deviate from Hollow Knight, enough that I believe this is worth a mention. Chiaroscuro could be a pretty solid Metroidvania, but there isn't a scheduled release date yet. It's confirmed for PCs only so far. Next we have Doomblade. In this you control a little demonic spirit looking guy with an even more demonic looking sword, namesake of the game, with which you will unlock all manner of abilities to do all the slaying of other creatures. There seems to be a lot of flying around with the Doomblade while doing the combat, which looks like it could feel awesome, so this is looking great. Doomblade is so far only confirmed for Steam with no release date.
This is where it all starts, little one. Down to the depths we depart.
Now brutal Meifumado. This is looking really freaking awesome. It takes place in a post-apocalyptic Japan, and you control this rogue ninja guy who has some of the most violent moves in the entire list to take care of all the grotesque apocalyptic creatures and whoever else crosses his way, with several awesome looking executions to boot. I also enjoy the chill moments in the great looking city locations where there seems to be a lot to do. This is looking fantastic and certainly one of the most anticipated Metroidvanias right now, earning the 8th spot on the list. Meifumado is a ways off though. It is the farthest away of all games on the list, currently scheduled for 2024, coming for Switch, PlayStation 4, Xbox One and PCs. Next is Rubi, the Wayward Mira. I'm a real big fan of the pixel art in this one, and it's looking like a great Metroidvania with RPG elements such as a skill tree, which is right up my alley. This will also feature multiple endings, which could be cool. It's scheduled to come out this year, 2022, on PlayStation 4, Switch and Steam. Next, The Darkest Tales. This one follows the creepy, nightmarish adventures of a teddy bear. I agree, this choice of a protagonist is off-putting. It's also not the first time a game tries this. Naughty Bear comes to mind and was not successful at this attempt. So I agree that this was probably a poor choice. But if you can ignore or don't mind it, everything else is looking pretty great, including the enemies, which are all twisted versions of fairy tale characters. Their locations are also looking great. Actually, the whole game's graphics are. There is a prologue build of this game to play as a free demo on Steam, which was very well received, so it looks like it could turn out great, and we will know for sure very soon, as The Darkest Tales is scheduled for Q3 2022, so anytime now. It's confirmed for PCs, Switch, PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. Next is Oirbo, or however it's pronounced. This is more like a platformer style Metroidvania rather than action. The trailer suggests that you will have to avoid the enemies many times, and if you need to defeat them, you will be doing so by jumping on top of them, so very platformer-like once again. Everything takes place on a spaceship with a lot of sci-fi inspirations, and I do enjoy the hand-drawn environments that look to have a lot to explore. The developer promises a twisted story in this one, so it could be cool. It currently has no release date scheduled scheduled yet, but it's confirmed for Switch, Xbox One and PCs. No PlayStation for this game, it seems. And finally, to close things off, my second most anticipated Metroidvania in production, only behind the unreachable Hollow Knight Silksong. We're talking about the lovely Gestalt, Steam and Cinder. Okay, this hits all the right notes for me. The late 16-bit, early 32-bit pixel art is some of the most gorgeous ever in all of video games. This is like a top 10 pixel art in my opinion. I mean, look at the locations, the cities, with several NPCs, look how varied they are and how the character sprites fit into the environment. This is superb art direction right here. It instantly makes the whole world of this game feel believable and alive. Then comes the fighting and oh my god, look at this, it's so awesome. Look at Alethia's moves. And by the way, is she one of the best designed protagonists ever or what? Check out her flaming hair in this animation, come on. I'll slow it down for you, look. Man, this is too much. She's got all the right moves, the right gear, the right outfit, and how fits into the setting again, which is a nice mix of western with futuristic steampunk with some advanced machines here. I mean, this is looking like perfection to me. She even pets the dog. We've got a potentially perfect Metroidvania here, and they are taking their time on this, which is great news. Get it right, it will be worth it. This is for sure my second most anticipated Metroidvania, and it's rather close to Silksong, which is saying a lot. So yeah, Gestalt, Steam and Cinder, get ready for this one. And that's it, 50 Metroidvanias to look forward to, or rather 47, cause 3 that I mentioned in part 1 are already out. Yeah, those are Soldier, Biota, and Imp of the Sun. None of those were in my top 20, but Biota and Soldiers were very well received. Imp of the Sun is more like a 6 out of 10, but not too bad either. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed and got interested in some of these. Let me know which ones piqued your interest in the comments, and that's it from me. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.